Well, I want to get some popular questions we have about blended families. I got to think maybe somebody's watching this, they're preparing to blend.
I wrote a book on that, by the way.
Oh, good.
It's got by the very title, Preparing to Blend. It's a book for engaged couples getting ready to form a blended family.
Prenups.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I wrote a book on that too, by the way.
A book about prenups?
I wrote a book about step-family finances, and I
Okay.
teamed up with a financial planner and an estate attorney. And we pooled our collective wisdom and wrote a book, The Smart Step-Family Guide to Financial Planning,
Okay.
which I have to say, by the way, was ranked #1 out of 100 estate planning books.
Humble brag right there.
So in the book, we tackle this. What do we think about prenups? Okay, there's a little bit of good in prenups, but there's a whole lot of bad in prenups. A prenup basically on the surface is me planning what I'm not going to give you when we divorce. Now, how does that foster trust in a relationship?
Seriously, right?
It does. It's a setup for failure. It's like it just breeds insecurity and doubt in your relationship. Not a good idea. But what is a good idea is planning and preparation and giving consideration to how you will care for one another and one another's kids should one of you pass away or something happen. That part is good. So we created what we call a togetherness agreement. You're not planning to fail and break up. You're planning to be together. And how are we going to let finances serve our togetherness? It's a totally different process, but in principle, it's similar. And the book walks people through how they can do that. So for example, just one of the things you're going to think through is, okay, in the event of unlikely death of one of us, how are we providing for you, your kids if you have them, me, my kids, our kids, whatever that little scenario is. And there's 100 different ways to create the togetherness agreement. There are many financial tools and vehicles you can use to help plan how your money goes and where your money goes. There's not one set answer. All right, you're my beneficiary and I'm your beneficiary. Maybe, maybe not. The point is you give consideration to the people and how you want money to flow so that you care for everyone. Now, when both of you talk through that, find that solution, put it down perhaps on paper, then you can go, all right, now we know how we're going to use money to serve one another.
Yes.
This is not building doubt. This is building trust.
Okay.
It's building security.
I like that, togetherness.
And so a togetherness agreement is a much better option.
Yeah. And then you need to communicate that to your kids if they're adult kids.
One of the biggest things that we learned in the research for that book is that so many contested estate cases that end up in court are between step-parents and adult stepchildren who had no idea that dad made the decisions that he did.
Yes.
And dad's sort of like, we're
Yeah.
not going to tell them, they'll find out after I'm dead. Well, that's the cop-out, right?
Yeah.
No, communicate. And here's the message. Hey kids, here's what you're not getting, I'm going to give to your stepmother. No. The message is, here's how I'm providing for you, here's how I'm providing for her, here's the way it's going to flow. Everybody's been considered here. We love all of you.
Yes.
See, that's the message of a togetherness agreement. We're caring for
100%,
you,
yes.
not withholding from you.
Yes. And leaving your kids out of that conversation, I think is that cause of all the estate lawsuits of like, well, what's yours, what's mine, this is that, and that we've got a situation going on in our own family where I'm like, hey, we need to be in the know.
Yeah.
And it's an uncomfortable conversation, right? Hey, so Ron, when you die,
Yeah.
right? It's like, we're really having this conversation, right? Yeah. But it's so vitally important, I think. Now, let me just, you're coming together as a family. Here's what we hear often. His bank account, her bank account. We've always said, well, if you're a team, you have a combined account. What's your recommendation for that?
In a first marriage relationship, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
In a blended family situation, there are many good ways to do it. We refer to it as pots of money. How many pots of money? You're going to have his, hers, and ours? Just his and hers? Just one that's ours? Well, there are good reasons, especially when you have children with another person, for you to have money that sits in one pot that's child support. Money in, money out, you can track, you can see where it went, you can tell a court if you have to. There's a good reason to have another account. See, really, The above surface question is, how many pots of money should we have? The below the surface question is, if you're unwilling to put all your money into my account with me, you're not as faithful or trusted. I can't trust you.
The trust issue. It's all about the trust, right?
It is. And so we got to start with that.
Yeah.
And we got to address that. What's that fear in you that's worried that this person is going to withhold something?
Yeah.
Spend money without you knowing about it. Whatever the case is. And by the way, that often goes back to pain in the previous relationship.
Right.
I couldn't trust them. Look what happened. They emptied the account and left, and here I am left with nothing. I'm never going to go through that again. I want to see all the money. I want to have control over it. Well, guess what? That's a reactive posture in a marriage that's based on a previous marriage. That's not going to serve you well.
Right.
So we got to deal with that trust issue.
Yeah.
And then we can come to some logistical questions. The above the surface will follow that. Once I feel like I trust you, yeah, we can have 3 pots of money. Mm-hmm. We figure out a system where we're accountable to one another, where we work together on what we spend and don't spend and dealing with debt and so on and so forth. We're still a team.
Yeah.
See, what you said is right. We're still a team. We're still pursuing oneness. How many accounts we have is irrelevant as long as we love and trust one another.
And trust and accountability are so interrelated.
Absolutely. Honesty
and finances is that like almost the playground of, can you be accountable?
Right. I worked with a couple one time where they came in, and the presenting issue for them was they'd just gotten married. He became the stepfather to her 3 kids. He didn't have any children of his own, had never been married before. The first thing he wants his wife to do is make him the beneficiary of her life insurance and her 401k. Oh. He's already done that for her, but she's holding back, not sure. So what he says to me is, I can't trust her, because if she's unwilling to do this, then she's telling me I'm not really first, her kids are first. Mm-hmm. And I was able to help him to see, no, that's your fear talking. Mm-hmm. That she has good reason to make sure her children are provided for and that you are provided for. It does not necessarily mean you have to be the sole beneficiary of all of her assets. It could very well be that she creates a way for money to funnel to you and to her children after, if she were to die, or perhaps to you and then to her children after she dies and then you die. Like, there's all kinds of financial ways of navigating this. But fear gets in the way of creativity when it comes to this. So you got to wrestle with that issue first.
That's so good. Fear gets in the way of creativity. Mm-hmm. And when you are blending a family because of the complexities, you have to be creative.
Yes.
Schedules and schools and finances and family activities. Mm-hmm. And it's so true. Couples lack that sense of creativity when they're in a defensive posture, a protective posture, which is why the weekly marriage business meeting makes so much sense, because hope is not a strategy. Mm-hmm.